When I bought my lake cabin 10 years ago, I thought I'd found paradise. 200 feet of private shoreline, a rickety old dock, and a view that made every bad day worth it. Back then, it was just me and a handful of old fishing cabins sprinkled around the cove. Everyone minded their own business. Then came the developer and the HOA. They tore down the neighboring cabins and replaced them with 12 massive vacation homes, complete with manicured lawns, matching docks, and an HOA to protect property values. Of course, their idea of protecting meant controlling everything they could. At first, they tried the usual nonsense. Letters about my unapproved paint color, my old boat trailer, even the campfire ring my kids loved. I ignored every letter. My land was never part of their subdivision. My deed said I had full riparian rights, access to the lake and an easement on the shared boat launch the entire cove used for decades. But that didn't stop them. One spring morning, I came down to launch my fishing boat and found a brand new locked gate across the launch ramp. Big shiny sign. Private, HOA members only. They'd pooled their HOA fees and paid to install it overnight. No notice, no discussion. I tried to talk sense into their president, classic HOA Karen, but she wouldn't hear it. She said my rusty old boat was an eyesore for the community, and that I needed to upgrade or stay off the water. I called the county. They shrugged and told me it was a civil matter. I called a lawyer. He told me I'd win if I sued, but it could take months. Meanwhile, my kids' summer fishing plans were shot. So I found another way to get back at them by minding my business. See, when they built those new homes, they ignored my advice about clearing brush. They wanted the wild, natural look for their fancy lakefront. So they let dry undergrowth pile up right behind their wooden decks. I warned them it was a fire hazard. Karen said I should worry about my own lot. So I did. I cleared every dry branch, trimmed every pine, made my yard a perfect little green bubble. Then July rolled around, the driest on record. One afternoon, a spark from a rogue fireworks show lit the brush behind Karen's deck. In minutes, half the shoreline was in flames. The volunteer fire crew scrambled to save what they could. But guess who owned the only flat stretch of open shore big enough for the water trucks to refill from the lake? Me. When the chief knocked on my door asking to set up pumps on my dock, I said of course, anything to stop the fire. But when the HOA president marched up behind him demanding I hurry it up because her house was worth more than mine, I reminded her about that gate. Funny, I said. This launch ramp was community access until you locked it up. Good thing my deed still gives me the right to the lake. Otherwise, where would the trucks get water? She sputtered, but the chief cut her off. They got their water because I'm not heartless. But Karen and her HOA learned a hard lesson about burning bridges. Half their fancy decks were charred to skeletons. The gate, the fire trucks had to cut the lock and push it over to get through anyway. Afterward, the county ordered them to reopen the launch or face daily fines for blocking emergency access. They tried to complain, but they didn't have a leg to stand on. Now my boat's back on the lake, my dock's busier than ever, and my neighbors wave real polite these days. Funny how they're extra friendly when they remember who saved their $1 million investments, with the same lake access they tried to steal.